Welcome to Readings by Rue Sample Series. This series shares with you full-length and sometimes partial recordings of real-life astrology and tarot readings that I have performed with clients. This particular recording is actually my first client reading ever, which was always intended to be public. And so it's pretty far out of my comfort zone to share this, but I feel like it's also a really important part of making my way of working readily available so people can learn about what I do and what having a reading with me may be like, minus the novice first time awkwardness that you will hear in this recording. But hey, you know what? It's real, and it's better to start at the very beginning, isn't it? So this recording was made on September 25th, 2023 at 14 o'clock GMT. I looked at Elizabeth Ashley's transits for a particular 1 to 2 week span, during which she had some book launch events and has returned to university for a new program. So without further ado, here's the reading. All right. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hello, Rue.
Yes. Thank you for being my first volunteer for a public reading.
I'm excited to do this, and it's really nice to somebody to do a reading or something from me for a change. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, and it's an opportune moment for you because we're going to be doing a reading about the launch of your new book.
Yes.
About the Priestesses of Demeter, which is really exciting. And
I'm being daft. I've left my copy in the house, but yes, the ancient Greek bee priestesses. So yeah, it launches at the end of this week. So I'm excited to see what the stars hold.
Yes. And also, you're going to be starting university the week after. So there's so it's a busy week for you. You're starting a lot of new things.
Exactly.
And I've taken a look at all of the charts and made a lot of notes here. So we could just dive right in, unless there's something that you want to.
No, happy to take your lead.
Okay,
no, great.
All right. So first I looked at your long-term transits around this time, and then I looked at the more itty-gritty details. So we usually start with looking at the long-term transits to get a sense of what's happening in general during this broader time period, and then go in and look a little bit closer. So the first thing that I want to mention about this time is that you have a Pluto trine transit happening. So where Pluto is in the sky right now is making a trine to your natal Pluto, which is something that only happens usually once. Well, there's 2 trines that happen in a Pluto cycle, and usually only one of them will happen in the course of a person's lifetime. So well, Pluto takes 250 years to move around the zodiac. So if you're a normal human being with a normal lifespan, 250 divided by 3 is what? Like 80 something?
83 and a third, yeah.
Something like that. Okay, you must be really good at math then. So yeah, this is a once in a lifetime transit, and it's because it's a trine, it's very easy to experience in that you don't have to put in a lot of effort, but it still brings a lot of transformation into your life. So this is a transit that is kind of just taking you along. Well, can a Pluto transit really be easy? I don't really know. It often involves going deep and looking at things that we don't usually look at in the shadow, but it's easier than a square aspect. So you're going to be able to use this energy to pull up things that maybe are from the past, and you're going for classics, right? So that ties in very well. And more easily use this energy to create transformation in your life.
So how long does that transit last?
Well, let's take a look. Although, let's see, I made notes. Okay, I wrote down this information. So this began in March of 2021, and you're actually going through the last pass of it now. Sometimes these transits end up getting caught in retrograde cycles, and for you that's happening this time, but you're at the very end of this. So actually, when I saw this pattern, I thought, oh, well, this makes sense because, I mean, I don't know how long you've been working on this book for, but it seems like it's a very important book for you, even though you have written books. I took a look at your book roll, and you have written a lot of books on aromatherapy and some other things, but this book on Demeter really seems to be the result of quite a large project for you.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that date actually is really significant because the priestesses were the priestess of Demeter core, and Core was Persephone, so she's married to Pluto, you know. And yeah. March 2021 was when I went through my initiation with the priestesses, and I had a really strange psychological event. And I always say it took 6 weeks for me to be able to think straight. So actually, to have been hit by Pluto is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, that was when it began, and now the end of this cycle is the last pass of this transit, and you've gone through the 3 steps of the initiation, and now you're presenting the results. So it seems like it's been quite a success.
What an astonishing thing to see.
So I'm glad you're mentioning that you went through this 6-week process, because, and now you and whoever's watching this is going to see my notes that I took on my cell phone. I didn't write this down because I didn't know if we were going to be talking about it, but I noticed some other things about this time period in 2001 that now I feel like is appropriate to ask you about. So I'm going to pull up my notes app.
2001 or 221?
Wait. What did I just do?
So yourself sideways.
Okay, I need to go back to the Zoom app and share my screen first.
Okay.
Oh wow, I don't see you or my options anymore.
Has it gone down the bottom of your
screen? Okay. Here we go. Technical weirdness. All right. So share screen, and I'm gonna go to my notes app.
Ooh, get you.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, these are some of the notes that I made. Oh, wait, no, these notes were actually for March 2023, not 2021.
Okay.
Here's one for March 2021. Yes, okay, so that's just that's what we have just been talking about.
Mhm.
But hey, why don't I ask you about March of 2023? So you've been going through a progressed Mars cycle. It takes a really long time for these progressions to happen because every day of your life equates a whole year. But March 2023 was when Mars was in an exact conjunction with your progressed North node, which would have brought a surge of energy toward your life path goal.
So at that time, thinking back, so at the end of May, I did a joint workshop with another aromatherapist, Debbie Atterby, and she came across from Australia, and we did a 2-day workshop. So during March, I would have been working towards that, doing a lot of shamanic work with Eucalyptus and writing my first sort of invitation for people to come and learn about the bees.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder what planet Eucalyptus resonates with.
So, can't speak. Jupiter is
Jupiter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me use that as a segue to mention the other long-term transit that I wanted to mention. Segue and also kind of an angling back, so we don't get too off track. I know you said that you have about an hour, but I still want to keep myself, because, and I'm just breaking the fourth wall a little bit here. Again, this is my first time doing a recorded consultation with somebody, and it's interesting for me for as far as time management and managing the course of the conversation. So I just want to be transparent about that and kind of like lighten my own mood about it, because it's it's part of the experience, and I'm learning, and maybe also by being open about this, because this is going to be going on YouTube, and people are going to be watching it for however long, right? And I just feel like it's important to embody the reality of the process of going from student, and even if you're a very deeply involved student, to actually practicing something and going along that path. So if somebody's watching this, and maybe I'll watch it again years down the road and be like, oh goodness, but whatever, I'm rambling, and that's okay. I'm going to go back to the work part of this now. So, you have another Pluto transit happening to your natal Jupiter. So this is a sextile transit, which is similar to the trine in that it's a benefic or easy transit, but it doesn't happen automatically on its own. The energy doesn't flow into your life like water in a river. It's more of an opportunity where you can access this if you're aware of it. And that doesn't mean that you have to be astrologically aware, but just if a person is consciously aware of subtle opportunities in their life, and then they have the motivation to go after those opportunities. So because this is to your natal Jupiter, it has to do with learning and growth. And so the fact that you're going back to university now is actually a really positive thing. It's going to give you the opportunity to use this transit and take advantage of the transformational energies of Pluto and apply them to where you learn in your life and what you're interested in being concerned with in the world, how you expand yourself in the world.
That's fascinating that's turned up at that time, isn't it? It's amazing how you mirror what happens with the planets. You know, it's obviously been pushed at this time. Yeah.
Yes. So what makes these transits particularly interesting right now, and by right now I mean within this week or two period, especially as we're coming up to you're going back to university on the 10th of October, Pluto is stationing to go direct. So it's been going through a retrograde cycle this whole while, and especially the past few weeks, being in these aspects to your natal Pluto and your natal Jupiter. But when any planet stations to either go retrograde or go direct, it becomes much more powerful. So the way that I like to explain this is if you're on a train, if you're at a train station and there's different platforms, and the train is moving, and then it stops at the station. And when it stops at the station is actually when the real activity happens, when the people get on and off the train. So it's very much the same. When a planet goes stationary, that's when you're really going to be able to feel the energy of the planet. And if something is happening at that time, if you have an event or a life change that's planned in advance, then the energy of that station is going to apply to the event chart. So because this is happening on the 10th, I'm applying it to your going back to university more than the launch of your book and the parties. So those few days actually make a really big difference. And yes, there's a few days. The station is technically a few days after when you're going back to university, but it's pretty much stationed. So as far as your overall long-term potential of your experience at university, this Pluto sextile Jupiter transit is going to have a significant impact on the way that it's all going to play out. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to really transform what you know. Your whole knowledge base is going to go through changes here, and you're going to be able to go really deep in your studies because of this Pluto transit that's affecting your Jupiter, which rules knowledge and schooling.
That's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. It is. So there's a third aspect that's happening specifically to the university return chart. That's a Saturn transit, and it's and if I'm going on my other phone here because it's easier for me to just quickly reference chart stuff without pulling up the screen. So this is a Saturn transit, and it is a Saturn square. So I'm just checking to see here how much it's affecting the whole week in question. So this is affecting the whole week in question, but it's the closest when you go back to university to an account of about 6 or 7 arc minutes. So there's 60 arc minutes in a degree, just like seconds in a minute. So this is a very close aspect that again, it's still going on, but so it applies to all of these events. But I'm particularly interested in it for the launch and the university return, or you returning to university, because this is the third quarter in your second Saturn return. So you told me you have a family member who's an astrologer. So I'm sure that you know a little bit about what the Saturn return is. For anybody that is watching that doesn't know what the Saturn return is, it's the cycle of your life that happens about every 28 years or so, that represents your advancement through the stages of life maturity. So the first return is when you become an adult, and the second is when you become an elder. And if you're lucky enough to reach the third, then you're hopefully very wise by then. So these cycles are also marked by trines or squares. You can look at them in many different ways. So the third quarter of your Saturn return is when you've already reached a very powerful point in your career, or the maturation of your life path, as far as your work, your serious work on the planet. And you're about to enter this stage of really embodying as an elder. You're not quite there yet. And can you hear this? Is the sound in the background bothersome by any chance?
What's the sound?
Okay, there's somebody in another house making.
No, can't hear it.
Okay, great. So this is when you're kind of entering the part of your life where you're about to become an elder, and you're not quite there yet, but the major bulk of the work that you have done is sort of winding down. You're going to begin a new cycle in about 7 years, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and that work is the square. So you're being challenged with really tending to what's necessary as far as what is your most important serious work to do. And so when I saw this, what I felt about you going back to university is that this is going to be a very serious venture for you. It's directly connected to the development of your career, but also to the core of what's important to you as a person in your life.
Yeah, that makes sense. And actually, because I'm doing it part-time, it will take 6 years to complete it. So 7 years will be the end of that cycle, yeah?
Oh, okay. Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So when you finish the schooling is when you're going to really step into full mastery of your priestess work and of your leadership, and you'll be able to really join the ranks of elders in a way that is you can really be proud of, that you've going to be able to go through all of this work. Serious work.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges of writing a book was there's a huge amounts of historical evidence and research, and I felt like there must be so many academic men with doctorates who are going to say, who are you to say this to me? So to go back to university and be able to say, well, actually, this is who I am to say it to you. I think it's I didn't really feel that I was missing anything until I got to that point, and then thought, right, well, that needs to be cemented. That hole needs to be cemented now. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations on embarking on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't started the work yet.
Yeah. Well, at least you'll have extra time to do it. Yeah. University. I remember. I took 6 years to go through university, even as a young person, just because I felt that the demands that universities put on students are so immense. There's no way to really get through it unless you skip over some things if you're trying to do it in just a few years. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's got to tie in with work, hasn't it? I can't stop doing the existing work because bills got to be paid, and I don't want to either. So yeah.
And but it all ties in for you also, because you're already doing a lot of this research. Yeah, so you're entering sort of ahead of the game as well.
Well, I hope so. Hope it works out that way. I don't have to unpick loads and loads of stuff, which sometimes happens when you start with an advantage, isn't it? But we'll see.
Okay. Just looking through. Okay, yeah, I want to draw we're talking about the Saturn transit. I want to draw your attention to when Saturn goes direct, which is between the 5th and 7th of November. So that may be a week when something may shift. You may feel a more like a reality may hit you of, oh, okay, I'm really in this now, and the work is really beginning.
Yeah. So around just after that is the anniversary of my original books coming out. So I usually do a celebration around the 30th of November, because that's when my first 6 books came out. But so that beginning of November is always a lot of work already. So that was like, oh my goodness, more work.
Oh, yeah. Well, it may also manifest in things moving a little bit easier. Blockages may free up, for example. So there's a lot of ways that it could come to pass, but I just wanted to draw your attention to those dates so that you know in advance that the Saturnian energy that is going into this change for you is going to be opening up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One more long-term thing, or maybe a couple, before I go into the details. So I can't talk about this too much because it's a whole deep dive in and of itself, but your progressed moon is in a very small balsamic phase right now. So this is another 28 or so year cycle that it is similar to Saturn in that way as far as the length of time, but clearly it's completely independent. So they can sometimes coincide or sometimes they can't. But this is generally a time where it's said that not much can happen in a person's life as far as heavy work or changes. So that's the traditional interpretation. But of course, it's clear to see that you're going through so much more, that you're in the middle of creating and publishing all this work and going back to school. And so what I would recommend because of this is to do your best to not overextend yourself. Your energy is at a low point as far as your 27 or 30-year cycle. So especially because it's going to be a number of years while you're in school, and you're going to be coming up to the first quarter of your progressed moon as you're graduating. And that will be when your energy is starting to expand some more. So even though this is a period of a lot of work for you, it's still an incubation period. It's still a working underneath, because it's what you're doing now is going to blossom into a lot more. So energy conservation right now, especially within the next 6 months to a year, is particularly important. But what you do now is going to be the seed of what your whole next 28 years is going to be like.
Okay, noted. Thank
Yeah.
you. I am known for overextending myself, so I will take that on board.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So just checking the time. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left, right?
Yeah, but you're okay. You're okay. Carry on.
Okay. I just want to keep on track with the time. Yeah, because I'm also learning about how much I talk.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You'll be amazed when you go into the zone how fast knowledge passes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot that I want to share. There's a lot of information to share. So, okay, let's talk about the parties, the launch parties, and the launch of the book. So I'm going to I'm just going to read off some things about what I see there, and then I'd love to know if you have any specific questions that I didn't address. So, and you'll really appreciate this one. I went and I looked up the information about Demeter, the asteroid Demeter, both in your chart and in the transit charts. And on the first launch party, the asteroid Demeter makes an exact trine to your natal sun. So basically, this means that the energy of Demeter is going to flow very easily into you. And you could say that, I mean, I would read this as a blessing, actually.
Definitely. I love it.
Yeah. So that actually applies for the entire week, because Demeter moves, at a decent pace, maybe about 1 degree per 4 days. That's what I have noted here, 4 or 5 days. But it's at the exact, it's the closest on the first date. So that's a good way for you to start these events. I took a look at the lunar days and the information about what's recommended or not recommended. And these are generally very auspicious days. You have lunar day 15 for the first party, lunar day 16 for the second and the third. Lunar day 16 is actually known as the best day for parties in general.
Wow. Yeah.
So the energy of the events should be really positive, and people will be particularly engaged, and everything should go pretty smoothly.
Thank you.
Also a day for for good confidence. So your energy should also be well, and it's just a good day to have these events. So I don't know if you what sort of election process you used, but you ended up.
I had no control at all. It was the publishers that chose when it comes out. So it was 10 months from when the book went to its finished copy writing. But the strange thing is that it also falls on the same day that it would have been the rituals of Eleusis 2,000 years ago, which is what the book is about. So yeah,
wow.
It's on the full moon, isn't it?
It is on the full moon, yes. That was another thing I was going to mention, and it's so interesting that you say it was chosen for you, because that supports, from my perspective, that these events are divinely orchestrated, and there's more going on than, So, I would again say that the spirit of Demeter, it probably has a hand in what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. Talked about the lunar days. Okay, so on this, and this is where we're kind of pinpointing a little bit more what's going to make each event a little bit different. So on the second event, which is going to be after the full moon is waning, it's going to be at sunset, and the moon is going to be rising, and Venus is going to be making an exact square with Uranus to 0 arc minutes. So the closest aspect that you can have in a chart. And so this is going to bring a feminine energy that's going to be really pushing to inspire change.
That makes sense. Yeah,
it does. So what I'm feeling is that the first event is going to be more of an energy of bringing in the spirit of Demeter, and kind of setting the stage for your audience receiving the sacred work. And then the second event is going to be more about the feminine energy pushing forward and bringing the change that the research of your work is going to be spreading throughout the consciousness. And I would say that your work is actually bringing a lot of change. It's brought, I mean, I've been in your group for a little while, and so I've been exposed to some of your work, although I haven't read any of your books yet. But what I feel is that what you're doing is really, in this very gentle but also confident way, you're kind of supporting the rising up of the ancient feminine, which is bringing massive change in the world right now. Your work is a part of that.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So that energy,
it is really important to me, really, that the work that I did on the book really changed my perspective, and to kind of be like a conduit for this female energy is important. So thank you for witnessing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, this energy of the female bringing change and challenging and being radical is going to be, it may come through in the second event. So if you're maybe thinking about topics of conversation or ways to guide the content of the events, that may be a good way to go. And then we have the third event, which is at sunrise the next day.
Sunset the next day, 7 p.m.
Wait, okay, so the first one is at,
so on the Friday, the one is at 10 a.m, which is 10 a.m. GMT, obviously.
Yes, the first one is at 10 a.m. GMT. The second one is at 7 p.m. It's at 7 p.m.
And then
And
the
then
next,
the next one is at
the next day is 7 p.m. as well.
Ah, yes. Okay. All right. I wrote something down incorrectly, but that's okay. So on the third event, that's when the moon is going to be meeting the north node of the moon in the chart, in the event chart. So this is going to be the collective consciousness lining up with the direction of the collective soul. So whereas the second event may be more geared toward the change that the feminine is bringing, the third event is going to be more of a global, the energy of the global sense of connection with the feminine because of the moon. But you're going to be aligned with the direction that the collective soul is taking. So this is going to be more of a holistic, global sense of change rather than specifically the feminine, if that makes sense.
It does, because then that's more about bees.
Okay, yes.
And the ecology.
Yeah, where are we going as a collective, the collective hive, so to speak, and how is our sense of feeling aligned with that?
And how we treat the earth. So the different parties have a different vibration, and whilst I'm not talking about ecology generally, it's more sort of ground based, living in the country and kind of bringing the rural energy rather than divine feminine energy, which is what I'll do on the workshops.
Perfect.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that lines up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And there's some other stuff going on with the moon there too. Actually, there's a lot that's going on during that third event with you've got the moon square Pluto. So again, the female challenges the power constructs. So first, the one before, we have Venus square Uranus. Now we have the moon square Pluto. So kind of a similar archetype, although different. Moon square Pluto is more of a deep and subtle, whereas Venus square Uranus is more in your face and embodied and radical. So that's happening. We have a Mercury trine Uranus. So that would make it very easy for you to talk about radical change during this third event.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the actual launch, which in many ways is more important than the parties, because this is when the book is born to the public. So again, the Demeter trine your natal sun applies to this as well. And of course, that's to your personal chart, but you're the author of the book. And so it supports the whole project. So we have on this date of the launch, Venus is making a trine to the north node of the moon, which is, in this case, is just a significator of auspiciousness. I would read it as generally extremely positive. It's going to help your goal because the north node is the goal, and Venus is one of the benefic planets. So it's just it's going to help your goal, bring an audience to the goal. It had been applying already, so this is a tight aspect that's had been applying, and it's still applying. So it's as powerful as it's going to get, basically. You also have the moon opposite asteroid Haumea. Haumea was is one of the Hawaiian goddesses. She's most commonly known as the mother of Pele. She represents rebirth and motherhood in general. So with her asteroid being highlighted, I also read that as a sign of auspiciousness and support from the goddesses for the launch.
But also Demeter is abundance and the Great Mother, and Persephone is rebirth. So it's the same kind of archetype.
Yeah. Yes, it is actually. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, it all ties in.
Very fascinating.
The Great Mother and rebirth, new beginnings. There's also a minor aspect that is the tightest aspect in the chart. So I like to look at what is the tightest aspect, because even though it may seem insignificant as far as like the bodies that are involved, because it's the tightest, it actually represents the essence of the chart of the moment. So we have the moon is in a biquintile aspect with asteroid Hygeia. Do you know anything about Hygeia?
I know a lot about Hygeia. She's one of my spirit guides.
Okay, great. So I'm glad I'm mentioning her. Yeah. So actually, you probably know more about her than I do, but I know her.
And you can add to my knowledge.
So she represents hygiene, of course, and medicine, but more as far as preventative medicine. So the way that I read this was not necessarily the physical hygiene practices, but a cleanliness and sort of everything being perfectly in line. So another very auspicious indicator of the success of the project. The aspect biquintile representing establishing new habits. So it could very well be that this book will help the public to let go of methodologies and ideas that weren't working before, and to bring in a better way of doing things, maybe a more spiritually clean way of doing things. And especially because your book, you say, talks a lot about ecology and working with the earth in a sustainable, healthy way. This actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, also the Melissae Priestesses in some rituals served Hygeia. So they are servants too. So when at the Eleusinian Mysteries, which is the big mysteries, it was 9-day festival, the priesthood of Ascleipius and Hygeia joined, and they so Hygeia, Ascleipius and Hygeia were dreaming gods and goddesses, and people would go and dream with the goddess to try and understand what was going on in their health, and the Melissae were servants to that.
Wow. Okay. Wonderful.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I've got a summary that I wrote here. We already spoke about the Venus square Uranus. Okay. I hadn't mentioned this yet. So the moon during these events is going to be transiting your first house. It depends on what house system you're using, but mostly your first house. So even though this book the events are about the book, as far as your experience of these events, it's going to be very much about you and what you've put into the book. The book doesn't really exist. I mean, it exists on its own, but it's very much a part of you, and you can't really separate. You can't separate them.
No. Well, first house is identity, isn't it? Makes
It
perfect
is,
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So these the events and the launch are going to send the book off as a part of you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So during this time, the sun transit sun is going to be on your natal descendant, representing the other, the audience. Traditionally, it can represent any sort of, is often referred to as your partner, right? But if we're talking about a professional subject like a book, it's going to represent your audience or your reader. So although the moon is highlighting you, this is reflecting your essence and your being. The real spotlight is going to be on the audience. So as you're balancing the energies of the full moon, that's something to be aware of. That the moon is actually reflecting the brighter light of the sun, which is focusing on what is the public, what is your audience experiencing, receiving the information.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take that on board.
Yeah. And just spinning off of that, have you ever heard of the asteroid Makemake?
No, I have not. Tell me about that one.
So Makemake was is the creator god of the tribes that lived on Easter Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in astrology, we generally use it to represent manifestation. Of course, corresponding with the creator god archetype, but also the word make in English would be to make something, to manifest something. So because Makemake is in conjunction with the sun representing your audience here, what I see is that your audience is the real resource for your manifestation. So how do the experiences or desires and processes and the initiation processes of your audience tie into all of this work? So that would be something to be aware of, that there's going to be a very significant spark of change and manifestation that's going to come about for people that are going to be involved with reading and learning from the book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all looking very positive.
It is. It
do
is.
Do we see money as well, Rue? That's the question.
What, about money?
Yeah, do we see money coming in?
Well, I didn't necessarily look too deeply into that. But there was something involving, and I'm glad you're asking me that, actually, because there was a Venus conjunction Venus transit that I noticed, that on just for seems to bode well for something like money. Mm-hmm. And I want to just look up exactly what where that was. I looked up so many different zodiacs. I checked the tropical, geocentric, heliocentric, and I looked at draconic, and I made a lot of notes. So I want to make sure that I'm resourcing the right aspect. So I'm going to look back at my notes. Okay, so this actually was for the university chart. So we can loop back around maybe, but your transit draconic Venus in conjunction with your natal draconic Venus. So I'm going to pull up the chart for this actually. And you can see it, right?
Yep. Well, yeah, it's just gone. That's it. I can see it again.
Okay. All right. Main settings. Nope, I already did that. No, I didn't. We want draconic. So I can use my pen, highlighter. Can you see here these two Venus symbols?
No, where am I looking?
I'm drawing a circle around them.
Can I see them now? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is for the university chart. And this is the draconic zodiac, which is it begins at the north node, so it's a movable zodiac, and it represents our oversoul, but it also can apply to physical reality as well. So we have your Venus, transit Venus in conjunction with your natal Venus when you're beginning the university. So if we're looking at Venus as a significator of money, then I would actually say that although I can't even, okay, there we go. If we go back and stop annotation, if we go back in time, it's still sort of a conjunction at the book launch. The book and your return to university could very well bring new connections that could bring money. But as far as will the book itself bring potential for money? Okay, so let's actually explore this. I'm going to go back to the tropical, and we're going to go to October 1st. All right, so again, we look at Venus for money. It's at 20 degrees of Gemini. That's your natal chart that would signify your money, and also it would signify money because it's the ruler of your second house. So are there any off the top of my eye connections or aspects to Venus in transit? We've got Mercury, and I'm going to start annotating again and take away the circle I already made. So see, we've got Mercury, transit Mercury over here. You see?
Yep.
at 23 Virgo, and we've got your natal significator of your money house, Venus, here. And that's a mutable square. So it could be a challenge to you may not receive money right away, but the potential is there. The fact that there is an aspect between Mercury, which would rule the exchange of money, and it's in the sixth house, which also indicates hard work. So the potential is there. It may not happen right away, but it's better to have a square than for the planets to not be connected at all.
Yeah.
So that would be just a quick. All right, stop my share. A quick look at if there's potential for money there. I would have to do some deeper research if I were to really look at the details of the potential. But
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic. You're welcome.
Fantastic. Well, it's been fascinating. Was there anything else that you saw?
I think that's it.
It's very detailed, Rue. Thank you so much.
I know. I really went a little bit overboard, but I think it's better to extract all of the details that I can.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, so I've got really clear plans of what I'm doing for the party on the Saturday. But the daytime plans the day before on the online launches, I can kind of tweak those based on what you've told me about the different energies to really play with that. So that's a massive help. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions or any?
No, because the only thing I was going to ask about was how was my energy going to pan out, and you've answered that really, to just really conserve it in the first 6 months. And so that's answered. So no, you've been really thorough. Thank you so much.
All right, great. You're so welcome.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much.
All right. Well, I wish you a wonderful event and ease in returning back to school.
Thank you. You must come to the online event so that people can talk to you about it.
Oh, yes. It's going to be shared on your group, the Ward Cunning group, right?
Yes. So yes, the easiest way to do it is to go through my link tree, which is linktree/the secret healer, and then there's all the groups. But I'll give you links to it, shall I? And then people can come and log if they want to have a look.
Wonderful. And that's your main page if people want to visit you and see what your work is all about?
Exactly. Yes. Everything's on there. Yeah, of what I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I will let you to your day, the rest of your day.
More packing. I'm packing boxes for the party.
Oh boy.
Stuff everywhere.
I understand.
Well, just stay on the line and I will click stop recording.
Okay. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Readings by Rue sample series featuring Elizabeth Ashley and her transits. If you are interested in learning more about what I do, in reading or watching or listening to more of my content, or even booking a reading for yourself, please visit www.readingsbyrue.net. That's readings by RUE.net. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day or night.